Hello everyone, this is Professor Robert Solis. Welcome to this video lesson. We're going to be talking about linked lists. So a linked list is nothing more than a node which contains perhaps a number, perhaps a character or a string item. It contains some data type, and then it has a pointer that points to another node, similar to what you see on this diagram. So let's implement this with a C++ program. So I'm going to create over here CS232 linked list part 1. Let me go ahead and create a source.cpp file. And the way that I'm going to do that is through the Solution Explorer. So Solution Explorer, Source Files, right-click, add a new item. C++ is fine. It's going to call it source.cpp. That's fine too. So I'll just click Add. And of course we're going to start off with our typical include iostream using namespace std int main open and close parens. Let's go ahead and hit system pause, return 0. Close this so that my CPU doesn't heat up so much here. Okay. Now, as you see from the diagram here, I need to create something. I need to create a node. So what is a node? A node, in our case, let's say that we want to create a node that holds an integer and a pointer to another node. So the way that I'm going to do that is through the use of a structure. And in C++, you create a structure like this called struct. Oh, by the way, I don't want to create it in here. I want to create it outside of the main program. So let me go back over here and enter a couple of times. So notice where I am. I'm outside of the main function. I'm going to create a struct. We're going to call this, let's say that I want to collect a bunch of ages, right? People's ages from our college. I want to track to see who are we catering to, the 25-year-olds, the 18-year-olds, the 45-year-olds. So we'll say ages node. So from the perspective of a C++ program, a node is a structure. And you'll recall the difference between a structure and a class is that a structure is a collection of nouns. A class is a collection of nouns and the verbs that act on those nouns. So a structure would be a bunch of integers, doubles, strings, characters, booleans. A class would be those same things, but also the verbs, the functions that act on those. So if I had int age, I would also have get age and set age. If I had miles per gallon, MPG, then I would have get MPG, set MPG, right? Those are the verbs rather, the functions that act on those nouns. So a structure in essence is a collection of nouns. And in this case, I'm going to create an integer age. So this is the item of the node. I'm also going to create ages node. That's going to be called link. And this is the link to another node. All right. What is ages node? It's a structure. What am I creating? Oh, we've just talked about this the last lecture. That's a pointer. What are we pointing to? We are pointing to another ages node. So graphically speaking, what does this thing point to? It points to another node, specifically another node that holds an integer. What does this thing point to? It points to another node, specifically a node that holds an integer. Right, so that's the idea here. This is the content. This is going to indicate what am I pointing to. And I'm going to be pointing to another type similar to myself, which in this case is called ages node. Does that make sense? Questions? Okay. So now that we have that, we can go over here to our main program, declarations, int num of ages. So this is just going to be a number of age values requested by the user. So I'm going to have a comment over here that the below statement creates the initial values for the head node. So we're going to type ages node. I'm going to create a node called the head node. That is going to be assigned a new, which is a word to instantiate this ages node. Points to the head node. All right. Anytime you see that word new in C++, we say that something is about to be instantiated. So when something is instantiated, we mean that it's about to be created. You could think of it as instantiating an object, right? Objects are instantiated from classes. So vehicle can instantiate scooter, motorcycle, Robert's Sentra, Kristen's Camry. Right? Those are all objects of the class vehicle. Okay, well now that I've created this node, one of the things that I can do is I can say in terms of the head, now watch this, hyphen, and then that angled bracket right there. Notice that I'm looking at the members of this thing called the head node. What is the head node? It's an ages node. And what is an ages node? Well, it's a structure that contains an integer and also a pointer to another ages node. So this right here shows you the members. Here they are. Are you referring to my age or you are referring to my link? Because that's what I am. I'm a collection of this right here. I remember when I was talking to one guy at Hughes. He says, I'm a collection of all my decisions, whether bad or good. So, in other words, this thing has properties. It has members. And so it's either this or this. Well, in this case, let's say that I'm interested in the age. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this to 49. Now, in terms of the head, I'm going to refer to the member again. So this is going to be my member access operator. And now I'm going to refer to the link. Every time that I create a node, make sure to set that to null pointer. The link portion, make sure to set that to null pointer, just like I had mentioned over here in my graphic. Right? If you're not pointing to anything, point to the null pointer. And that's what we're doing right here. So that is how you create a node. You use the new operator and say, what are you? Well, I am going to be one of these guys, this ages node. What do you want to be called? Well, since I'm the first node, call me the head node. And now let me go ahead and set my members, age and link, to a number and also the link to the null pointer. So we have a node that is pointing to the null pointer. Let's create an initial link list of values based on the user input. So over here, I'll say get user input. I'm going to create another node. We'll call this ages node. Specifically, next ages node, new ages node. So you are instantiating a new object, which is really a pointer to an ages node. Now, what do you want this thing to point to? So I just created this guy, next ages node. I want you to refer to the head node. So the next ages, whoops, sorry, comment. The next ages node is the first node. Save my work. So what does that mean graphically, what we just did? Let me just give you an illustration here. Let's see here. Do I still have this thing pasted? Ah, beautiful. Okay. So I have this thing right here, this node. This node is called the head node. And that was determined here. Head node. It looks like I put the number 49 into it. And I said that you are pointing to a null pointer. You're not pointing to another node yet. Right. This line of code says, I've just created this other node called next ages node, and I want you to point to the head node. So this thing is also called next ages node. When I go home, my son says, hi, Daddy. My wife says, hi, honey. Are they both referring to the same person? Yeah. We are referring to this in two different ways. You could call this thing the head node. You could also call it the next ages node. It's the same thing. And that was accomplished through this statement right here. All right, so now let's ask the user how many items we're going to collect. So we'll say cout, how many ages are you going to enter? cin, let's put that into num of ages. We have a variable up there called the number of age values that we're going to enter. Okay, calculation. Let's use a for loop. Let me create a counter called I. We'll start that at 0. And as long as this thing is less than the number of ages, we're going to keep on incrementing this by 1 to go to the next item. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to say to the user, enter an age. We're going to get that age, and then we're going to add to our linked list all the ages that were entered by the user. Okay, so let me go back over here to my drawing. What I'm going to do is this. I need to add another linked list, or another node, I should say. I want this guy to point to this, and then I want this to point to the null pointer. And then I'm going to eventually want to put a value in here, 22, say, for example. So do you see how I added a node to the end? That's what we want to do. Next, ages node. Let's take a look at the members that this thing has. So I use the hyphen and the angled braces to show me the various items that I have access to. All right, well, what I want to do is I want to refer to this guy over here, the link. I want you to be a new ages node. So this creates a node at the end of the list. Now, next ages node, I'm going to assign to you whatever next ages node is pointing to. And so that is going to be via this link. So we're going to say points to that node. Then we're going to say next ages node and specifically the link, set that to null pointer. Then I can ask the user, enter an age. Or I should say enter age 1, sorry about that. Enter age 1, enter age 2, enter age 3. So we'll say enter age 1, and I'll use that counter +1, and then I'll put a colon over here. Then we're going to get that value, and we're going to put that into next ages node, specifically into the age. All right, let's take a look at this step by step and see what it is that I've been typing here. So first of all, for loop, obviously, starts off with the counter I, and we're going to keep on doing this for however many ages the user wants to enter. Okay, well, over here I created this next ages node. What is a next ages node? It's an ages node. What is an ages node? Well, that's this structure over here. It contains an integer, and it also is going to hold a pointer that's going to be pointing to another one of these types of nodes. So point to one of my kind. All right, so now what I'm going to do is for the next ages node, I want you, in terms of the link, right? So in terms of this guy right here, what you're going to be pointing to, I want you in the link to point to a brand new ages node. Okay, so that ages node, so that's why I say over here, it creates a node at the end of the list. This guy right here. All right, so next ages node is going to be the thing that I'm pointing to. Okay, so let me just stop right here. Next ages node. What is next ages node pointing to? It's pointing to this guy. Now I'm saying I want you to be the node of the thing that I'm pointing to. What am I pointing to? Do you agree that I'm pointing to this? So now look at this. Now this is next ages node. That's what this statement means right here. I was pointing to the head node. Now what am I? I'm this node right here. I'm this guy. Now the link, I want you to point that. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. I want you, in terms of your link, right, your link member, to point to the null pointer. Now I haven't put the number 22 yet, so enter an age. The user could enter the number 22, and this would go into the next ages node, age, and then we could put the 22 right there. So I was, what is this guy right here? This is called head. This is also called next ages node. Okay, the thing that I'm pointing to, that's what I want you to now call next ages node. Oh, come on. There we go. And by the way, when I create another node over here, that one then is going to become next ages node. And then the next one is going to be called next ages node, and so forth and so on. So do you see how this next ages node is just going to keep on propagating? This is the next one. Oh, now this is the next one. Oh, now this is the next one, and so forth and so on. Right? Until finally I'm done entering numbers. At that point, we ask the user enter a number, and we are going to put it into next ages node, which is currently pointing to, which is currently this guy right here. In fact, let me take that arrow away. This really isn't a pointer. This is really a name. What is this node called? This node is called next ages node. What is this node called? This is called the head node. So each of these nodes has a name, and I have to make sure that I'm keeping track of this. Okay. All right, so that takes care of this for statement, which is going to get a new node. It's going to create a new node and put data into the new nodes. Now let's focus on the output. And by the way, when we run this program, I'll stop it and look at it step by step so we can really understand how this thing works. Traverse the, oops, sorry. Traverse the linked list and display its contents. So if the user says, I'm going to enter 5, this thing will loop 5 times and I get to enter all kinds of different ages. Now let's propagate or traverse through this linked list so we can show this is what the user entered. So we'll say cout. We go to the beginning of the next line, which is endl, of course. We're going to be traversing the linked list. And endl statement, go to the beginning of the next line. Okay, so let me go back to my graphic over here and move this over here. I'm going to create a new node. This thing is going to be pointing to this node, which is going to contain, I don't know, 10. And then this guy is pointing to the null pointer. And then I'm going to add another node, and another node, and another one, depending on how many ages the user wants to enter. Okay? So this is what it looks like. And then this guy over here, now we call this guy next ages node. And then the new node that I create, we move this over, and that becomes the new next ages node, and so forth and so on. Okay? So if I want to propagate through the list, then what I'm going to have to do is go back to the head node. Do you agree? So what am I going to do with this guy over here? I go right, oops, sorry. Grab it right there, good. Not only is this guy called the head node, I'm also going to call you next ages node. I'm starting from the beginning. Then I'll say, okay, display your contents, display your contents, display your contents. There's nothing more after this because that's the null pointer. So we're going to go through these step by step. But first I have to do this. Let's look at my notes. Next ages node is going to be the head node. Link. What is the head node? That's this guy right here. The head node is pointing to this guy. And so the head node, whatever you're pointing to, that's what I want to point to, which is this first node right here. Okay, now you noticed that I'm going to call this next ages node, then I'm going to call this next ages node, and I keep on doing this until I get to the node that's pointing to nothing. So while I am not looking at the node that points to the null, keep on doing this process. Go to the next node, go to the next node. When I get to this guy over here, oh, there is no next node, we'll stop. Stop our looping structure. So while next ages node is not equal to the null pointer. While you are not looking or referring to that node that goes to the next pointer, then keep on propagating or traversing through this linked list. Well, certainly, the next ages node is not the null pointer at this point. See, because this is what's going to happen. Let's call this node this. Let's call this node this. Let's call this node this. Now let's, okay, you are now the null pointer. Yeah, we don't have to continue. We can't continue from this point on. So what we're going to do is we're just simply going to cout next ages node, whatever your member age currently contains. Go to the beginning of the next line. So this guy is going to display 49. What is the integer member or the age member, right? That's what this guy is. What is the age member of next age's node. Well, next age's node is this node right here. Oh, you're a 49, so we're going to display the number 49. Okay, now I need to do this. I need to say the thing that you're pointing to, I want to call this node now next age's node, because then I want to be able to display that 22. So whatever it is that you're pointing to, that's going to now be called next age's node. So next age's node is going to be the thing that you're pointing to. So link. What are you pointing to? That thing that you're pointing to, I am now going to call you next age's node. Graphically speaking, what are you pointing to next age's node? Oh, you're pointing to this? Okay, well now this thing is going to be called next age's node. And so now you can see this is how you propagate or traverse through a linked list. What are you pointing to? Okay, I'm going to call you next age's node, and then give me your age. Well, it's 10. Okay, what are you pointing to? The null pointer. Well, remember, we keep on doing this until this thing is not equal to the null pointer. Once it is equal to the null pointer, then I know that I've traversed through the entire linked list. Okay. Delete the head node from the free store memory. So we say delete next age's node, and then next age's node is the null pointer. Then delete the head node, and then we assign the head node to null pointer. All right, when I was a little boy, my mom would always say, "What, do you live in a barn? Close the door." Because I would always run out the door. My brother and I would run out the door and we'd leave it open. Flies come in, bugs come in. Okay. Whatever you open, you must close. So any time that you're using this new keyword, that means that you are reserving a chunk of memory in the free store memory, which is memory that you guys have access to. And so this is the problem with C++ programming. In C++ programming, you must do memory management. In Java, there's the garbage collector. In Swift, there's the automatic resource counter, the ARC. So these new advanced languages, they have a way of dealing with memory. You declared some memory for usage of your variable, your object, whatever. Don't worry about I'll get rid of it for you. Because I'm a garbage collector. I'm taking care of, keeping track of all the chunks of memory. Your program closed. Obviously, you don't need this chunk of memory anymore. Then we free that up back into the free store so that when you want to run Netflix or Hulu, or when you want to play Field Runners or whatever the game is that you're playing, I have memory for you to use. Okay? So if I did not do this, that memory would be occupied. And the only way that it would be freed up is when I turn off my computer and turn it back on. Then that memory would be flushed, and now it would become available again for the user or for the developer to use that memory. So the way that you can think about this is anytime that you're using this new keyword, you are reserving memory. And so if you are going to be reserving memory in the free store, you've got to get rid of it before your program is over. So the way that you do that is you delete it, and then you assign this to the null pointer. That way, if there's an accidental referring to that, or maybe not accidental, intentional, referring to that memory again, you're pointing to nothing, you're available for me to use. So this is like the process that you have to go to delete these nodes from the free store. All right, I'm nervous. See if it works. Run the program. It's not working. It's not working. It's working. All right, properties. Let me change this to 24 points because I'm blind. There we go. How many ages are you going to? Let me change that later on. I'm going to enter 3 ages. Enter age number 1. What did I put down here? 49, 22, 10. 49, 22, 10. Enter. Traversing the linked list. 49, 22, 10. Okay, so we know the program works in terms of allowing the user to enter integers, putting them into a linked list, and then traversing that linked list and repeating. But let's take a look at this. Let's break the program. Let's stop it and investigate what's going on. Okay, so let me just stop it right here. The program. All right, so we're stopping right here. I am about to create a new head node, and it is going to be of type ages node. So let me just step over here. So here it is. Notice over here in my autos section, here's the head node. It begins at address hexadecimal 00C4D578. Now, what does it contain? So let me just break this open here. What is a head node? You remember it has an age, an integer, and also it has a reference to something else. Okay, what's the value? Whenever you see something like this, that just means random. It hasn't been assigned yet. I don't know, it's got random value, whatever it happens to be. Hey, what are you pointing to? Because that's another component of our node. It has a link, a pointer to something else. I don't know. I'm not pointing to anything yet. Okay. Well, now we're about to give it a value for age. So I step over. I just put 49 into there. And so notice over here for our head node, there's 49. But the link, that hasn't been assigned anything yet. So we are about to assign it to null pointer. Step over. Look at this. Oh, well, actually, it's out of scope. But if I take a look at the head node over here, notice now your age component is 49. Your link component points to the null pointer. Okay, now we're in good shape. Got this head node. It's the first node. All right. So the next thing to do is we're going to create an initial linked list of values based on the user input. Okay. So I'm about to create this thing called next ages node. It is going to be of type ages node, which is what that structure is up here. All right. So let me step over. All right, so here's next ages node. Let me open this up a little bit. All right, okay, there's next ages node. And at next ages node has a random value inside of it, and we're not pointing to anything yet. Our head node, we're good to go. 49, you're pointing to null. But this next ages node that you just created, what are we going to do? So here's what I'll do. Next ages node, we are going to assign to that whatever the head node is. So everything that this is about to be assigned over here. Let's see what happens. Step over. Sure enough, next ages node, the age component is 49. The link, you are pointing to the null pointer. Good. So this was analogous to me saying over here, this head node, we're also going to refer to that as the next ages node. This thing has 2 names, 2 nomenclatures. Right? You can call it by, like when I go home, hi daddy, hi honey, same person. Okay, let's ask the user how many ages. So I'll say 3. Enter. Let's go back over here to our program. We're stopping here at this for loop, which is going to go from the counter, which we'll assign to 0 in just a second. Here we go. So from 0 all the way up to, but not including 3. So as long as I is less than 3. All right, so what am I going to do? Now, the link portion here, the link, what you're pointing to, you're pointing to null right now. But I want you to now point to a new ages node. So in other words, I'm going to create one of these nodes over here. Okay, put it right here. I'm going to create another one of these nodes. All right. Now, the thing that you are pointing to, that new ages node, that's what I want to now become new ages node. So this guy over here, this new ages node that I just created, I'm going to call it now. I'm going to refer to that as next ages node. So over here, next ages node, thing that I'm pointing to. The link, I want you to point to nothing, to null. Okay, there it is, null pointer. And now let me get the age, and I'm going to populate that age, which is some random value. We don't know what it is. Hasn't been assigned. So let me enter the age. Okay, that age is supposed to be 49. Enter. Go back over here to the program. I'm putting that into the next ages node age member, and sure enough, there it is. There's the 49. Go back over here, do the same thing again. All right, the thing that you're pointing to, your link, right? I know you're pointing to null pointer right now. Pretend this thing doesn't exist. But I want you to now point to a new ages node. So it's going to create this thing without the 10, without the link in it. There it is. Now, the thing that you're pointing to, I want to call that next ages node. So I want to call this guy that you just created above, that's going to be called new ages node. The link, I want you to point to the null pointer. See, we're not pointing to anything. But now, we're pointing to the null pointer. Enter an age. Okay. 22. Go back over here to the top. Same thing all over again. 10. Enter. Okay. So now you see how you're like, okay, here I am. I want you to point to whatever I am, my type. I want you to create another one of these. Now, I know I'm calling you this, but now I'm going to call you. What I was calling you here, the next ages node, now you're going to be called the next ages node. And you're also going to point to the null pointer. And we keep on doing that process. So it's kind of like an assembly line. Okay, click, 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 chain links coming together. You just keep on adding node after node after node. Well, now we're finished with this for statement, and now we're going to traverse through this, and in the same fashion, okay, I got to, first of all, go back to my head node. Oh, you're the head node? I want to be also called the next ages node, because my intention is to display your content. So we're doing that in the form of a while statement, but first I got to do what I just did graphically. I've got to move this thing over here to refer to the head node. So the next ages node is now, here's the next ages node. Looks like it's here, 49, and you are pointing to another item that has the 22. Oh, nice. Are you the null pointer? No, I'm not. So let's get your age component. What is your age component? 49, and let's display it. Okay, now the thing that you're pointing to, I want to become that. So the thing that you're pointing to, that's what we're going to call next ages node. Back over here. Hey, are you the null pointer? Nope, I'm not the null pointer. See out your age component. That's 22. Okay. The thing that you're pointing to, what am I pointing to? Oh, I'm pointing to this node. Yeah, I want you to call that next ages node. Okay, the thing that I'm pointing to, I want to call that next ages node. Okay, go back to the top. Are you the null pointer? No, I'm this node right here. I'm not the null pointer. Okay? Output your age component. Looks like it's 10. And so here's what the output looks like so far. All right? The thing that you're pointing to, I want you to call that next ages node. All right. The thing that I'm pointing to, I want you to call that next ages node, which happens to be the null pointer. Hey, are you the null pointer? I am. As long as you are not the null pointer, keep on looping. But I am the null pointer now, so I'm not going to loop anymore, so it jumps out of the while statement. The memory that you are using, let me give it up to the free store. All right? I'm in line, and I'm 100th in line to buy the new iPhone 10. It's going to be coming out. And this very kind gentleman says, I'm first in line. I don't want the iPhone 10 anymore. Hey, Robert, do you want to stand in line? I'm like, yeah, I'll take up your memory. But first you got to give it up. You got to give up your spot. And then I can occupy that. So before I can occupy anything, let me free that memory up that these new next ages node and the head node are occupying to free that up for someone else to use, something else to use. Okay, so I can just continue from here. And that's it. So this is an excellent illustration of how a linked list works. You're just adding an item to the end, you're adding another item to the end, another item to the end. And so now, in future lectures, we're going to take this and say, okay, resort it. So instead of this being first, second, third, this is going to be first, second, third. How do I reorder it? How do I get this guy, get rid of it, and have the 49 point to the 10 node? How do I insert something? Like maybe it goes from 49 to 10, but I want to insert a 22 in between there. How do I do these things? Insert, removal, traverse, reverse, sort, right? Those are all future lectures. This is just simply step one, creating a linked list, step by step, and in this case, an integer linked list. And that's it. So this is Professor Robert Solis. I hope this video lesson was helpful. Have a good day. See you next time.